As you probably know, a SQL insert statement is a line of code to take a single value and insert that into a table, or basically take in one row and insert it into the table. Now on the screen here, I have an example of 3 inserts that inserts into a table called REH department. REH is my initials in case you're curious. One thing I want to point out is the syntax of this insert. What we're going to do in this short video is I'm going to show you different syntaxes for the SQL insert you can use to put data in your table. Now the syntax you see on the screen here is the most simple, where we just simply say insert into, and we put in the table name, and then we put in the values, and then we have a single value for each of the values that are in the table. And I'm going to comment this out because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some new code on line 4, 5, and 6. By the way, you could use the double hyphens to comment your code out. So you know the syntax of the insert statement I just stated to you, where we're inserting we're inserting a record or a column into the table for each value. So I can here we got REH department would have, for example, RH department has 3 columns, and we're putting in, column 1 equals 3, column 2 equals something else, and column 3 here equals the date. Now we also have a solution here in line number 5 and 6, where if you wanted to specify the names of the columns, and you don't have, for example, all of the values, you can just specify the names. But look at the error that we get here. We have an error in here, not enough values. So let's see why. If you look at the script here, what I have for line 6 is I'm saying insert shipping and then insert the department date into the RH department table. Now, I only had 2 columns specified, so that's why I got that error message that the number of values is incorrect. Let me show you what null means. What I could do is I could put null in for the first value. What null means is generally I don't know or I don't want to supply it right now. We use it in SQL insert statements or in any other SQL statements in like this case where we just might not want to supply for whatever reason the first column, which is the department number. So I'm going to put null there instead of the number, which means I just don't know it right now. I'm going to click on run now, and then you should see that the SQL statement, the insert is successful. Good. So null just basically means I don't know what it is, but I need to supply the value, so here it is. We can also use a different syntax. If we wanted to, we can specify only the names of the columns that are going to contain values. If you notice in the syntax we use so far, we just say insert into, the table values, and then the values that we're going to insert into the column. So if there's 3 columns, we need to supply 3 values. But what if we don't want to insert into each one of the columns? Well, we can do that in the syntax I'm showing you now. What we can do is we can specify the columns that we're going to be inserting values into in the table, and then the column values. So here I'm going to put in, just for grins, I'm going to put in the 3 columns for REH department, and I cheated and snuck and I looked these up so I make sure that my columns are exactly the same names. So I have insert in the RH department, department ID, department name, department date. And then for the sake of getting a good example, I'm just going to put in those 3 values. So also I'm going to put in a comment here. What we're doing here is we can specify the column name. We can do this if you don't want to or you don't know the values of each of the column names. For example, RH department could have 1,000 column names, and you don't need necessarily have values for each of them, so you can just specify which ones you want to insert into. So this should work just fine. If I click on run, it should successfully insert a record or insert that row into my table, and it looks like it's successful. It works just fine. So let me show you the real power of this. And let me just explain to you that I'm giving you different syntaxes just because there's different scenarios you might use them in. I'm not saying one's better than the next. I'm just saying that there's more than one way to skin a cat here. So, like, for example, if I wanted to insert into the RAH department table, but didn't want to put a null, and maybe I only had, 2 of the 3 values or 1 of the 3 or something, what I can do is I can modify that syntax for line 9 just to supply the values that I have. And again, I'm making up these scenarios just to get a good use case to use them. I'm not saying you should use one over another. I'm just giving you different scenarios that you can consider when you're writing your insert. So anyway, let me take line number 9 and copy it to line 12 just to show you just to kind of spare you me typing this in. And for line 12, let's just say, for example, I might not, for example, maybe I don't know the name if I'm inserting into, and I'll supply it later, but I just don't know. You could use the syntax because I could have here after the insert into, I could specify the columns. So I'm going to insert into RAH department, and I'm going to provide values for the department ID and the department date. Notice there's no null, there's no anything. I'm just saying I don't know what other columns I'm going to insert into, but I do have the value for the department ID and the department date. And let me run this, and I should get 2 successful insert statements because I didn't comment the previous one out. So that seems to work fine. So let me go back and show you. Well, I can show you here that I'm just inserting the values for the department ID and the department date. Now, the insert statement is a fairly easy SQL statement to understand, but it requires some practice and a little bit of research too. What you should be doing is, in addition to this, is you should be researching other syntaxes and other examples for the insert statement. Please don't use my example as the be-all and end-all. It should just really be the springboard of your own research in the insert. Google's your friend. You can just do Google insert statement syntax, and you can get some more code examples. So thank you for watching this video, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.